Hey, comic book fans, my nerdy friends, and my geeky compadres. Welcome to another Halloween-themed back issue review, where we're going to do House of Secrets, issue 110 today. That's what we're going to do. I picked this one because I did House of Mystery last time. I want to do House of Secrets this time, and I love this cover. So, yeah, let's get going. Okay, so first we're going to start with this cover. This cover was done by Luis Dominguez, and I love this cover. I think it's awesome. It's like perfect horror time, just a feel to it. It's awesome, amazing. The first story in this book was called Domain of the Dead. Introduced by Abel. I love it when they do that in these books. Have Kane or Abel introducing the book. House of Secrets, it's Abel. House of Mystery is Kane. And Domain of the Dead was written by Jack Olek, and the art was done by Fred Carrillo. Really good. The story is about a man and his wife who go to Transylvania, so you probably already know what the story is about. And they rent a castle for a month, and the the Burgermeister stops them on their way and tells them that you can't go in there. You can't stay there. There's a vampire. The place is haunted, and Mr. Atkins, who is the skeptic, keeps telling him, "Oh, you know what? No, I don't believe in that crap. You're just trying to keep us away. We know of your hospitality and you hate strangers, so you're trying to drive us away. But I've always dreamed of living in a castle, and that's what I'm about to do." And him and his wife go off and go to the castle, where they meet Father Xavier, who is that gentleman right there. And Father Xavier has been pretty much hunting down the vampire for years, trying to get rid of him for the sake of humanity. Well, as Mr. and Mrs. Atkins are checking out the castle, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, each room is beautiful. This is great. I see why you wanted to live in a castle." Miss Atkins ends up on her own in the garden, checking out a statue where, boom, the vampire shows up. She's all shooken up and tells her husband about the occurrence and how Father Xavier was there to drive off the vampire. And Mr. Atkins is like, "No, you're just imagining it." And Father Xavier is imagining it as well. "I don't believe it. You guys are lying. And we're just going to bed, and that's it." And so they go to bed. He sleeps perfectly, nice and soundly, and she wakes up early. She can't sleep. She goes down to make some tea and talks to Father Xavier, and he says, right there, he says, "The only way we can get rid of the vampire is we need to use you as bait." And she reluctantly agrees. The next day goes back out to the garden, at which time the vampire comes out. That I forgot to mention, that was the first time Father Xavier had seen the vampire, when Mrs. Atkins was out in the garden. He's been searching for him for years, and that was the first time. He says, that was the first time I seen him. I need you to act as bait so we can find him, and for the good of humanity, kill him. So she reluctantly agrees. She sits out in the garden, and waits for the vampire to come. Father Xavier backs him off and he starts running. They find a secret passage to where his coffin is, and Father Xavier says, okay, all we need is a stake and a rock, and you need to stake him through the heart. And she says, I can't stake him through the heart, are you kidding me? And the father's like, look, I'm a man of God, I can't have anybody's blood on my hands, even the demon. And she was like, oh, I understand. So there she goes, whacks the stake through the vampire's heart. He turns into a skeleton and she takes off. And she goes and tells her husband about what happened. And he's like, you know what, I don't believe it. Go show me where the dead body is and blah, blah, blah. And so she takes him down to the coffin, and there's nothing there, just an empty coffin. So he goes back to the Burgermeister's office and he says, look, I get it, you guys are trying to scare us away, this is crap, we're not leaving. You know, I know that the police and Father Xavier and everybody's in on it. And the Burgermeister says, well, you saw Father Xavier? And Mr. Atkins says, yes, of course I did. He was leading us on through all this. And he says, well, if you've seen Father Xavier, you must have seen the vampire, because Father Xavier's been dead for 10 years. And that was it. That was it. So, yeah, really cool. I love these old stories. So, it's awesome. I love these books. So, good stuff. All right. So, the next part of the book, the second story, was called Safes Have Secrets Too. It's written by Maxine Fabe, or Fabe, F-A-B-E. That's a script. The story idea came from Mike Pulowski and art by Floor Deary. It's a story about a man who works in a safe factory and has a partner. Kent Triton is the main character, this guy at the bottom. It starts off with him embezzling money from his partner, and it's kind of funny because in the House of Mysteries that I did a review on before this was a story about embezzling as well. So, you know, similar ideas, I guess. But in the story, Kent Triton is a man who lives well beyond his means. Decides to embezzle money from the company to pay for a down payment for a yacht. His partner, Mr. Cranston, finds him embezzling money and fixing the books. Says that if you don't bring the $125,000 you owe back to the company back, he'll inform the shareholders and call the police. Well, Triton doesn't like that idea. So he tells Cranston that he will bring the money back. It's just in the basement, and smacks Cranston over the head with what looks like just a big metal pole. Next it says that Triton knew it would come down to this one day, so he prepared everything perfectly, his alibi and all that. So he goes down to the basement in the safe factory, and puts Cranston into this big safe. Outside it's a stormy night, it said, and Cranston turned the furnace on and stuffed the body into the safe while he was warming up. And then the next morning, he tells his workers to load the safe up. He's taking it home. One of the guys says, "But boss, that safe was already sold to the Acme Savings Bank last week." He says, "I don't care. Give them their money back. This one's going to my house." And you see the guys who are moving it see this blood trickling out of the safe. They see this, go to the police. The police come the next day, and they're like, we need to see what's in this safe. The movers said there were blood and all that, and Train says, okay, I'll just open it for you. And inside was just some gray dust, you see right there. And the police are like, oh, well, your movers have quite the imaginations. And in the next page, Train was like, it's not just gray dust, it's the ashes of Cranston, and you know, I know I covered every base there was. So he goes to bed and he sleeps soundly. And that night there was this huge storm. So you see that kaboom, crack, and he's freaked out because the house is set on fire. So he's trying to get out, and he's like, oh, the only exit I have is over by the safe at the French doors. So he makes his way to there, and he gets held back by something. He's like, let go of me, let go! And then all of a sudden the house just blows up, pretty much. The next day the police come and they're like, I've never seen a house so devastated. There's nothing left except the safe. And what's that blood coming out of there? So they open it back up, and there's Triton in the safe, frozen in fear. And the police are like, oh, he must have died from suffocation. Well, Abel comes in and says that if the police looked harder, they would notice the gray, dusty handprint on his coat and around his neck, implying that his late partner killed him. So, good story. I like it. This is an awesome book. You should check them out. On to the next one. Alright, so the third and final story of this book is called Possessed. It was written by Jack Olek, and the art was done by Jerry Talek. So it starts off with the burning of a witch. There's 3 judges sitting there who burned her. They see her book lying on the fire there, not being touched by the flames. So obviously it's a book of spells, and the witch says, yes, it's a book of spells, and I'm a witch, you're all fools, thinking you can destroy me, I'm going to come back and kill you all, type thing. We've all heard it before. But in the crowd, there is a man and his wife. Wife says she needs to go, she can't stand watching this anymore. But her husband, Adam, says, look, Rachel, his wife, that book, it's not being burned. It's gotta be, like, special. He determines that he needs to get the book to provide a better life for himself and Rachel. He wants her to have all the fancy things in life. And he keeps saying that they need to go get this book, and Rachel's like, no, it's wrong, it's the work of the devil. And he's like, we need to get it because I love you so much, and we need it so you can have like a house wench and all the pretty dresses you want. And after a while she decides that she just can't argue with him anymore, and out of love she agrees to digging up the book that was placed in a grave with the witch's ashes. So they go and they start digging, and they find the grave covered with a cross because she was a witch. He removes the cross, and Rachel feels sees a shadow and feels it touch her, and it's cold. Then Adam finds the book, finds out it's all in Latin, and therefore is worthless to them because they can't speak Latin, and he throws it away, covers up the grave, and puts the cross back on it, and that's that. They go home, and he can't sleep. He's talking in his sleep, tossing and turning. Wakes up the next morning, and a friend of theirs comes and says, "Oh wow, one of the judges, Judge Simmons, is dead. He was stabbed to death, and we know it's the work of the witch. She's come back to kill them all, just like she said she would." And Adam's like, "What happened?" Rachel says, "I told you we let the witch go, or the shadow figure was the witch," and blah blah blah. And the friend says, "What? What shadow figure?" Adam says, "Oh, it's nothing. She's just got an imagination on her. I have chores to do. I gotta go. Bye." And him and Rachel start arguing. She says, like, that shadow must have been the witch. She's come back to kill everybody. Adam says that witches don't use knives because that's how the judge died. He was stabbed to death. And he's like, "You know what? Screw it. We're going to bed. I'm going to go grab a pipe. You're going to clean up the table, and we're going to sleep." So he goes to his cupboard to grab a pipe and finds a knife there. The knife that was used to kill the judge. And he's like, "Oh no, it couldn't have been. She couldn't have done that. She's too good. She's too nice." So he thinks Rachel killed the first judge. And so he went back to bed. In the morning, Tolliver, which is their last name, could explain his fears, his guilt, but there was to be yet another morning. I didn't catch that really. Anyway, he starts searching for, clues as to why, Rachel would have killed, or if she killed somebody, and finds mud on her shoes. So she obviously went out in the middle of the night. And his friend comes back and says that Judge Hendricks was murdered, just like Judge Sims. And they say old Abigail's come back from the grave. "I tell you, there's evil abroad, neighbor, evil." And Adam's like, "Okay, it's got to be her, I guess." So he asks Rachel, why she had mud on her shoes, and she said, "Oh, one of our calves was trapped in the fence, so I went out there and got him." And Adam was like, "She doesn't realize that she murdered the judges. She has to be possessed." So he decides he's going to stay up all night, every night, to make sure she doesn't go out and kill anybody. He's going to guard her. Eventually he ends up falling asleep a few days later. And when he wakes up, there's a mob outside of his door. And they're saying, "We know you're in there. We know you killed the third judge. You're a witch. We know Abigail was coming back. It's you who killed her." And Adam's like, "Oh God, they figured it out, and they're gonna burn her alive, and she's gonna suffer, and I don't want that to happen." So he tells Rachel that she obviously was the one who went and killed all three judges, being possessed by Abigail the witch, her ghost, and he kills her quickly instead of long and in the fire. He chokes her to death. And the mob is like, if you're not coming out, we're coming in, and they bust in the door, and you see Rachel's laying there on the ground dead, and they said, this guy right here, he's like, you killed her, and he was like, "Yeah, I couldn't let you guys burn her, I wanted her to die quickly." And they were like, there's been a third murder, they're explaining it, and this time somebody saw the murderer, and we knew we knew where to go, and Adam was like, "She was possessed, whatever, it was my fault." And they were like, "She was possessed." "No, you were possessed." And he was the one that ended up killing the judges and killed his wife. and was possessed by the witch's ghost. That I think this one was probably my favorite story out of the bunch. I mean, I kind of knew the twist that was coming at the end, just from... It was just the feel I got from it. So I knew that twist was coming at the end, but it was still awesome. Okay, and that was my review of House of Secrets, issue 110. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I enjoy them. I'm doing them as Halloween-themed reviews because it's, that time of year. It's time for horror and spooks and, scary type things. But I'm also trying to show you what these books are all about. They're great old horror stories. The art is fantastic. They're stories we've all heard before, but it's just fun reading them. So House of Mysteries, House of Secrets, all have little, 3 stories in each one. Nice little short stories, especially for this time of year. But all year round, I like reading them. So I hope you enjoy these. And everybody have a ghoul time. God, I just can't get this down right. It just sounds dumb. Bye.